So we're starting about a little bit late, but I want to thank you guys for being here. We got a full day of what we hope is going to be really good information, some good fellowship, and getting kicked off to work for 2024, because we know that's our next big fight. First of all, I just want to thank a few people. First of all, I want to introduce our Vice Chair, Kardal Coleman. Today, somebody called him the second gentleman, and they keep elevating our relationship more and more. I do love him, but not in that way. Anyway, I also want to thank Mary Leyendecker. She's the brains behind everything. I also want to thank Kathleen Thompson, who's our amazing communications director. And where is Charles? Charles, he has taken over and he's helping the precinct chairs and he's been doing amazing lately. He's one of our big volunteers. So, who else am I missing? There's tons of people here that I need to thank, but we'll be doing that throughout the day. So we're just going to get started here with the general session. I'm going to go through some things, talk about some of the high points, the stats of 2022, and then talk about where we want to go with 2023, and we'll do some overviews of what we're going to do here the rest of the day. Let's see if this works. Oh, right button didn't work. I said all that right there. Here in just a little bit too, we're going to have Casey Thomas. He's going to come. He's going to talk to us. Oh, there he is. Awesome. A little bit about how important messaging is, and for Democrats to stay on the same message. We've got Shri Kulkarni and Lana Hansen here from Blue Action Dems. They're going to be here giving an overview of the 2 Million Texans application, the REACH application, which is going to be one of our breakout sessions. And then we're gonna have you guys sign up for the breakout sessions before we go to lunch, and then we'll have a couple of breakout sessions this afternoon. Let's see. Okay, review. Rising Together. That was the theme of our coordinated campaign. That was the name of our coordinated campaign in 2022. And the reason behind that name is still rings true today, and it's going to ring true through this next cycle. There are numerous ways that we can slice and dice and look at the Democratic Party. We have all kinds of different issue-based groups, different demographics, different religious folks all over the place. And we all have slightly different issues that are most important to us. We're the big tent party. But the only way we're going to get through and break that barrier of having a statewide office as a Democrat is to do it together. We've got to figure out a way, one, to coordinate better, to collaborate, and we all know this, and we've all said this, and I'm going to keep on saying it. We have to quit being our own worst enemy, right? We cannot have our issue groups fighting against each other if we're going to take these last final steps to make it happen. So, quick review of the coordinated campaign. We had record funding. We had $1.3 million that we raised and we spent in working to get out the vote. We had canvassing that started in August. We knocked on over around 125,000 doors. We had all the regular parts of a coordinated campaign, of any campaign. We had mail vendors, we had digital vendors, we had folks making phone calls. We did chase phone calls and chase mailers to the vote by mail folks. We had vote by mail education. And so we had a good RFP process where we found the best and the most affordable for what we were getting contractors to work with us. And we did everything we could, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that looked like. So overall, if we look at the largest counties in Texas and the 2022 turnout, obviously Travis County had the highest Democratic voter percentage. So the overall turnout for each county is in blue, and the Democratic percentage of that turnout is in lime green, okay? In the last several cycles, Harris County has been above us in terms of Democratic percentage. Obviously, right here in 2022, I think, did amazingly by having 62.8% of the vote that turned out be Democrat. So I want you guys to give yourself a hand in all that you've done to make that happen. Let's move on. And then in the governor's race, let's talk about this. I know that we all talked about that, hey, turnout is down from 2018, okay? What have we done wrong? What are the big issues? So let's talk about 2018 just for a second. One, the most hated man in Texas, the most hated man in politics was on the ballot, Ted Cruz, right? So that was a huge deal. Maybe he's second. The most hated man in politics was in the White House, and so there was the huge swell. It was also the last cycle of that redistricting decade, right? And so within Dallas County alone, there was, I think, 6 competitive House districts. We flipped those in 2018. There were a couple congressional districts, and at that point in a redistricting cycle, pretty much every voter who is going to vote and every voter who we are touching and every activist knows exactly the district lines, knows who the players are in those districts. And so everything, the most education and the most knowledge of what our political environment looks like is known at that point in the redistricting cycle. In 2022, obviously, those districts had just been cut a year before. It had been less than a year with those districts. There are activists, there are precinct chairs, there are folks who do not understand where the new lines are, who their representatives are, who the candidates that are running to be their representatives are. So there's a lot of education that still needs to happen. That's one issue in 2022. Number 2, obviously, there's a Democrat in the White House, right? That makes the other side pissed off. That makes them want to vote. So there's a groundswell on the other side, and that's why there was the fear of the red wave that didn't actually happen. And so that says something for what we've done. And obviously, the other thing is that if you look at 2022 was a midterm, right? At being the first election cycle in the redistricting decade. Last time it was a presidential, right? That was 2012 was a presidential. So that was a little bit higher just because it was a presidential. So what we did here is we wanted to compare 2022 to the first midterm in the redistricting cycle, and then of course to 2018, okay? So obviously, turnout was down compared to 2018. We talked about the reasons why. Obviously, it was up from the first midterm of a redistricting cycle, but it was also Democratic percentage of that turnout is up from both of those election cycles. So that again tells something of what we're doing. We are moving in the right direction, and that is a good thing. So, does that make sense? Yep, okay. We're gonna keep moving on, some more stats. So we just put out all of the House district races and just the total turnout for these. Obviously, there is 108 and 112. There were competitive House districts there. Those are the only two House districts that are Republican at this point, and we're trying to flip. They were very competitive. There was lots of activity, and there's Republicans there, right? It's the middle ones there that are going to be the struggle, but the turnout was high there. Now, also, we need to start looking again at the cold hard truth, all right? Anything that is around 20 and 30%, below 40% of these House districts, we need to look at those, we need to figure out how to get to them, and we need to get those out, because this is what is going to kill us as we go forward into 2024 and trying to get a statewide office eventually on the Democratic side. So we've got 110, we've got 107, we've got 105, we've got 104, we got 100. And then there's some there that are just above 40%. We know that'll be higher in a presidential, but it's got to be a lot higher, okay? So now if we go and we look at those same House districts and percentage of Democratic turnout, what that shows us is the House districts that were competitive, right? 112 and 108, the Democratic percentage was lower, but it was just under 50%. So those two districts, one, were built to be Republican, but they're just barely Republican. So we are so close to making those happen, all right? So we need to keep fighting there. But the other thing is, if we look at those same House districts where turnout was in the 20s and in the 30s, 110, 100, 103, 109, look at the Democratic percentage. Over 75, over 80%. So what does that tell us? That tells us that if we're at 28% voter turnout overall, but 85% of the time they turn out, they vote Democrat, that is a huge, huge opportunity for us. And that tells me that we can still, and we should be, the driver of a flip at a statewide level. Does that make sense? Okay, so, and just so you know, we're going to send all these out to everybody so you can have them, you can look at them, analyze them, ask questions about them. The other wins that we had, obviously, Andrew Sutherland won the county commissioner too, so every single commissioner and our county judge is Democratic. Adam Swartz won the JP seat, Henry Curry won a constable seat. So at this point, county level officials, we only have one left out of the 45, 46 that is a Republican, and bet your bottom dollar we're going after that next time. I don't remember his name. It's 3-2, is it? Or it's a JP. It's a JP. Yeah. The other things, new congressional and new House district. Jasmine Crockett took over. We got a new House district for 100, Benton Jones. And back again, after popular demand, House District 114, John Bryant. Okay, now here's some stats that I don't think you're going to see anywhere else. We've dug into it, and at this point, with redistricting in Dallas County, there are around 880 precincts, right? It went from around 800 the last round to about 880, so they sliced and diced them pretty well. 86 precincts, 1/10 of the precincts in Dallas County flipped from red to blue in 2022. That, I think, is huge for an already blue county and for an election cycle like we talked about, that we knew was going to be a depressed turnout and that was going to be hard for Democrats. 1/10, you guys, that is huge. That is a huge deal. That's the breakdown of the precincts in the different commissioner districts. And so please give yourself a hand for that too, because that is a huge deal in where we're heading. And if you look, they were all over the county in those areas. All right, so what are we going to be doing for 2023? All right, we've looked at it. Now, in 2022, the youth vote in Dallas County was up comparatively. Does that mean that it was amazing? No, but it was up comparatively, so we're doing something right. We know that we have a lot of allied organizations who are working in the high school areas. March to the Polls, they're going to be here for a breakout session. They are working to make sure that they have folks. I know some of you are talking to the social studies classes, the history classes, making sure that they understand the importance of voting. They're making sure that there's registration opportunities, and they're working to make sure that there are, we want to make sure that there are Democratic clubs in all of those high schools. So what we want to do, well, let me talk about college students as well. We have a great college program, or a great college system within Dallas County. I know that at those campuses, a lot of them, some of them are non-traditional students. But whether they're non-traditional students, they're traditional students, we still want them to vote. And if there are a big population of people at those campuses, we need to be there registering and making sure that they have the education and the information they need to vote. So in the last cycle, we worked really hard at talking about creating your precinct team, creating your neighborhood team, making sure that we were able to, where it was possible, get your precinct and your volunteers the information to go and put on every Democrat's door, right? So that one, we know that those Democrats that vote all the time, that we don't have to hit them with paid programs quite as much if we have that volunteer and we have that program happening. What we need to do to add to that, one, is if we don't have that in your precinct, we need to build that this round. But if we do have that in your precinct, what we need to do then is take a look at these other programs. Is there a high school in your precinct? Is there a college in your precinct? Or is there a high school or college in a precinct close to you that doesn't have a precinct chair? If so, we want you to adopt that college, adopt that precinct, and start to implement some of these in coordination and in collaboration with March to the Polls and other organizations that we're going to bring in with you. Does that make sense? So that's the next level. That's one of the breakouts that we're going to have. And then the 56% of people who didn't vote in the 2022 election, how do we get to them, right? In Dallas County, obviously, we just said that there's only one county level official who is not Democrat. So that means that we have done the lion's share of the flipping, the lion's share of the work, right? You guys have heard of the 80-20 rule, right? To get 80% of the way, it takes 20% of the effort, time, money type of thing, right? So it takes the smaller amount of the effort to get the first X amount, the first 80%. And then to get that last 20%, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of focus, a lot of dedication, right? And it's going to be that incremental type of movement. That's where we are as a county, and that's what we have to put in. That's why we have to be all working together if we're going to make these small steps to do that flip. This is one of them, right? We looked at those numbers a little while ago. A lot of those House districts are in southern Dallas County. A lot of those House districts, a lot of the precincts that we're talking about are black and brown precincts. At this moment, we are not doing a good enough job at relating to, educating, and bringing in and making sure that those black and brown communities understand why they should vote and why they should vote Democrat. So we have to relate to them better. And so there's a breakout session with a panel group talking about that type of stuff. And then we have to use our personal network, right? Block walking is still the best way if we can get in front of somebody to talk to them face to face, right? But where we are with technology and where we are with cell phones, everybody has a cell phone. A lot of people have a Ring doorbell, and fewer people are answering the door. So we know, and Lana and Shree are going to talk about this, that somebody who you want to vote, if you talk to them and say, hey, this is why I vote, they are more likely to vote because they know you, right? Because they trust you, because maybe they've even heard of you. So we have to start using our personal networks much, much more through a technology perspective and just through an interpersonal perspective to get more people out to vote. I've said for several years, I came out as gay in Texas. You can come out as a Democrat to everybody that you know, okay? So please make that happen. There's going to be some stuff here in a breakout to talk about. Is that all? Oh, here we go. Here's the other focus. Give us your money, okay? As we went into 2022, the election, we had around I think 10, 11,000 monthly coming in for sustaining donors. Obviously, for the last 2 years I've been talking about that the county party needs to be running year-round. It needs to run at a certain level to be able to continue to put these programs in for that last 20%. We can't do it election cycle after election cycle for a year or 8 months or even 14 months each election cycle. It has to be an ongoing thing. And to do that, we have to have the income to be able to pay high-level folks who have the political minds and the strategy and the business savvy to put in these programs. I just said a minute ago there were 880 precincts. I still believe 100% that it is not too much to ask out of a precinct to have $100 a month per precinct coming in to the Dallas County Democratic Party. And if you are in a precinct that's higher economically, then you need to be working to have 300 or 400 come in. Do you understand what that means? That means 5 people, $20. That's it. That doesn't mean we're not going to have anybody here who is able to write a $5,000 or $10,000 check. We're still going to need to have that. But it is, I'm just going to say it's pathetic. It's pathetic at this point that we only have 290 sustaining donors out of a county of 2.3 million. Do you guys agree, or am I being an asshole? Okay. Pat, you're out of here. So this is the goal where we want to get to this year, okay? All right. So I'll be back in a minute, but right now I'm going to have Casey Thomas come up and talk about some messaging. Not yet. Current city council.
Hey, welcome. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. For those who don't know, my name is Casey Thomas. I serve on the Dallas City Council. I represent District 3, which is Southwest Dallas, and I am in year 8. I am termed out. I am not on the ballot in May. So that allows me to focus more on voter turnout in the community. And so, first, if you're a precinct chair, raise your hand. All right. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause. As a former precinct chair, I wanna thank you for your hard work. You are the front line when it comes to making sure that we get people informed and educated in your precinct out to vote. Who knew what the theme? And you gave away my pop quiz question.
Oh, sorry.
But who knew what the theme of the 2022 coordinated campaign was before Kristy told us? Be honest. Who knew? All right. So, you know what that speaks directly to? The topic I'm here about, messaging. Because we have to be able to speak with one voice and with one purpose. And so, we can't rest on the fact that the county is blue. We have to work to win every precinct in Dallas County. You win elections, how? By what? Precincts, right? Precinct to precinct. That's how you win elections. If you think about it, when they total up the votes in an election, they count every precinct. And that's how they determine how many votes were in each particular county. So, I have another question for you. Do the registered voters in your precinct know who you are? If you're a precinct chair and you know the registered voters in your precinct know who you are, raise your hand. All right. Now, let's be honest. The only way we're gonna get where we need to be is if we're honest, right or wrong. And for a long time, we haven't been honest. For a long time, as precinct chairs, our job is to get the vote out in our precincts. And when we fall short, we have to be honest that we didn't do everything that we could do. There's no way I could win every election that I ran if we didn't work relentlessly, daily, making sure voters knew who I was, what my message was, what I was running on, what my accomplishments were, relentlessly, over and over again. The question is, are you willing to do that type of work? And be honest. Be honest. We know what it takes to win elections, right? But the question is, are we willing to do what it takes to win elections. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but we gotta be honest. We gotta rip the Band-Aid off. Because we are not performing at the level that we can perform. If we perform, and they had great doubt. And Kristy and Kardal, let's give them a round of applause for their team. They're working extremely hard. And they know the day after the election, I called both of them. I said, we need to talk. We need to talk. Because I looked at the numbers. Another role I serve in is I'm the state political action chair for the NAACP here in Texas. So my job was to get the vote out all over the state of Texas. And so we had to organize chapter by chapter, unit by unit, branch by branch. And we had to train each political action chair on how to do virtual phone rings, how to block walk, those type of things. And the truth of the matter is, as a party, we may need to go back to the basics. We need to go back to the basics, and that's why this workshop is so important. This room should be standing room only. If we do our job, if each one of us would have invited 10 people, this room would have been standing room only. So we gotta start with us. Michael Jackson had a real popular song, and you probably know where I'm going. Man in the Mirror. We gotta start with the man or the woman in the mirror. We gotta check our own level of commitment. We gotta make the commitment that I'm gonna do everything that I can to make sure, let's challenge one another. If we need to raise funds to do it, the precinct chair who has the highest percent turnout in their precinct, not in 2024, but in 2023. Their election's coming up in May. Let's challenge one another. The top 5 precinct chairs who have the highest percent in Dallas County, let's give them some type of reward. This is how we take things to the next level. I'm sure some of the things that I'm saying now will be repeated. But at the end of the day, and this is the next question, because I know my time is short. The most important question that you can ask voters that live in your precinct is one thing. What's important to you? What's important to you? It can't be about us. It can't be about us. It's gotta be about issues. I started an organization about 3 years ago called Our Voters, Our Voice. And the reason I started the organization is because it was the middle of the pandemic and I was afraid nobody would get out and vote. We went from having no members to 500 members as a part of our Facebook group because we're focused on the issues, not the candidates. We focus on the issues. If you begin addressing the issues and concerns of your residents in your precinct, you don't have to worry about voter turnout. They're gonna come out and vote. But you have to be relentless. You have to be nonstop. You have to get to the point to where they don't even want to see you come. I can tell you from experience, we touch every voter at least 5 times during early voting. Because we know if you don't turn out and vote, I don't win. This thing we said in our precinct. My precinct would not have the highest voter turnout if I don't touch everybody at least 5 times. So you don't have to be the only one. Build a team. Have a team of leaders in your precinct. Y'all remember we had block captains? Right. Yeah. What happened to that? See, we need to go back to the old school. Those things work. Why did we throw them away? Social media should be an addition. It shouldn't be the main thing. Interaction, person-to-person interaction is still the most important type of contact that we can have. So, I'm gonna challenge our leadership, and I'm gonna not just talk about it, I'm gonna be about it. First of all, I'm gonna pick up where we left off. I am a monthly sustaining contributing member of the party. Every month, money comes out of my check. I get an email saying, your contribution has taken place. And so, We have to make that same level of commitment. I'm gonna close with this story, and some of you may be familiar with it. It's about the chicken and the pig. When breakfast time came, who do you think was most committed, the chicken or the pig? The pig, because the only way you can get the breakfast, the only way you can get the bacon is the pig has to give up his life. The chicken only gives up an egg. The question is, what type of commitment and sacrifice are you willing to make? Thank you.
Are you a chicken? Are you a pig? Okay. Thanks, Councilman Thomas. Appreciate you. Appreciate your contribution. Appreciate your commitment to making sure that we get out the vote. All right, next we're going to have from Travis County, Lana Hansen and Kulkarni come up, and they're going to give a preview and a little overview of the breakout session that they're going to have, and talk a little bit about what their application was able to achieve in 2022. Give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Kristy, and all of the Democrats that are in the room today. We are so excited to be here. As Kristy mentioned, I'm Lana Hansen. I'm the Executive Director of Texas Blue Action. If you're not familiar with our work, what we do is very much related to what the councilman was just saying. We build precinct-level infrastructure that is grouped together in geographic areas so that our precincts work together with a block captain model to turn out voters and organize year-round. And what we've seen is that those precincts continue to outperform Democratic turnout across the state. So he's exactly right, that that's what we need to do to make sure that we're building political capital in our communities, our voters vote in every single election, and that they truly understand the importance of civic engagement and that their vote really does matter. Because in low turnout elections, 4 votes can make the difference. We've seen that happen for people, right? So it's our job as precinct chairs and members of the Democratic Party to get involved at the precinct level. But through that organizing, we really recognize that it was a relational type of organizing, right? Neighbors talking to neighbors, friends talking to friends, PTA moms to PTA moms, and that we have the greatest influence over the people in our own lives, the people that share our own values. We all know people that would vote the way we want them to if we can just get them to show up. So this year we decided to roll out a relational organizing program, going back to what Kristy was saying, using the technology and the tools that we have at our hands to be able to expand a network and turn out voters and do it faster than we've ever been able to do before in the state of Texas. And it turns out that program is now the largest in the country. So we should all be very proud of that. Everybody who participated in the 2 Million Texans Project, you did that, and we're going to continue to grow it. But I do want to mention really quick so that you know what a stellar group of people you have running the Dallas Democratic Party is that when Sri and I got together and rolled this program out, the first county chair we sat down with was Kristy. And she didn't bat an eyelash. She said, yep, this is what we need to do. Understanding the innovation and the importance of bringing that in to not stop the activities that we're doing, but to enhance them, make them easier and more productive and more efficient. So big thank you to Kristy and Kardal and Kathy and Mary and the incredible job that they're doing here and for being really valuable partners to us. So thank you, and having us here today. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to introduce my partner, my chief strategist, Sri Kulkarni, a very important member of our team who has helped us roll out this program, and he's going to talk through the impact of what that program did and what we plan to do with it in the future.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, Dallas. My name is Sri Kulkarni. For those of y'all who don't know me, I've trained a lot of folks in here, but I ran for Congress myself. I've raised millions of dollars, but I have to say, everything that Kristy and Kardal and Councilman Thomas said is absolutely true. Y'all, the precinct chairs, you are the ones who can actually change these elections. And I mean that completely seriously, because I did raise those millions of dollars, and people in DC, consultants, they told me, you know what you spend most of that money, what do you spend most of that money on?
Mail.
Advertisements, right? Advertisements is what you spend most of that money on. But I can also tell you, because I knocked on 12,000 doors myself, my own campaign, it's this neighborhood work, this organizing, these relationships that Casey and Kardal and Kristy talked about. That these are the things that can actually change things. And I'm not, it sounds like, all right, great, the children are the future. I think these are beautiful words, right? We're talking about numbers. So where's the clicker here? Let me show you what I mean by that. Does this clicker work or? Hey.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. All right, everybody, has anybody seen this graph? All right, this is a graph of who voted in November, right? For the entire state. You can see it really clearly, because when people say Texas is too red, has anybody heard, hopefully nobody said this in this room, Texas is too red, it's out of reach. This is exactly how red Texas is, 4.2 million red voters. This is exactly how blue Texas is, 3.5 million, right? Most of those millions of dollars that we spent, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, is spent trying to convince people who are right on this line to go one way or the other, right? What is this yellow slice right here? That's how unregistered Texas is. Anybody registered voters this past cycle? God love you. This is really important. However, what is this biggest slice here? 9.6 million voters. People who are registered, who just don't show up, at all. And everybody in here, including me, knows people like that. People who just don't show up at all. That's why we say y'all are the most important piece, because most of what we spend our money and time on is not this. It's not the biggest slice. But what we're doing here with relational organizing, using your own networks, the people in your neighborhood, the people in your church, the people that you know from school, the people your kids know from school. How many people have kids over the age of 18? Everybody that your kids know, trust me, they have tons and tons of people in their phone and their social media who are registered but just not voting yet. So that's what we're talking about, cutting into this biggest slice, right? So can we go to the next slide, please?
You just click it.
Oh, I click it. All right. Thank you. All right, there we go. So, the state the size of Texas. What can we get to? Lana just gave you a little bit of preview. Before this, the largest network in the country was in Georgia in 2021. Remember when we decided the entire Senate for Ossoff and Warnock? That time we did a statewide relational network, all friends, family members, people that you're connected to, neighbors. We got to 160,000 voters. Look at what we've built already, just by this past November, over 500,000 voters, more than 3 times the largest one of these networks before. But we got to keep going. In addition, a lot of folks say, well, but aren't we just talking to each other, right? We're just talking to folks who already know. We're not cutting into that green slide. Look at that. 282,000, more than half of the people in that network were low propensity. That means that without us reaching out to them, they're not going to vote, but if they show up, they're going to vote the right way. How many people did it take? It took almost 7,000 volunteers, over 30 people in here. Really appreciate everybody who went through the training. For those of y'all who have not, though, we're going to have 2 trainings right after this. We're going to do beginner, or even if you've been to it before, you can come for the second one and we can give you some advanced techniques. Each person, and not just precinct chairs, every single one of those volunteers had about an average of 113 people in our network. Think about that. If we divide the load, each one of you, and if you have volunteers, block captains within your precinct, if each person takes 100 people, think about how many people we can reach across the entire state. And at the end, I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to get to by 2024. And then lastly, I'm really proud of this. This is a coordinated campaign. This is not just one campaign. It doesn't end in November. And it's not just the statewide. It's the state, it's the county, it's the local, all the way down to drainage commissioner, justice of the peace. People have 1 or 2 volunteers. All of us can put our networks together. We got over 200 candidates and elected officials across the state involved. We want to get 1,000 by next time. So, look at Dallas races. These are some recent races that were less than 6% margin, excluding some of the ones we just talked about, like Andrew Summerman here, Henry Curry. Look at that. Candace Valenzuela, how much did she lose by? 1.3%. Brandy Chambers, 0.3%. So what is the impact of this? Like brass tacks, right? It's all great to talk to your friends and family neighbors. What was the impact when we did this across the entire state? Look at this. In our top 3 counties, 5% bump in turnout overall, and then the closer you get to election day, because some people wait longer and longer, and you think, well, is it just because they're voting at the end of the cycle? We got an even bigger bump in turnout, 6.6% of the people who waited until election day. That's gigantic. That could flip, any one of those races would be flipped by these amounts, right? So you all have that power. Nothing that we do, nothing else that we do, no ads, and honestly, no mass texting, mass phone banking, mass emailing, nothing beats the power of the relationships that you all have and that you all build within your own neighborhood and your own community. So what is the opportunity here in Dallas County, right? So Kristy hit some of those numbers on turnout. We talked about the environment. You know, what are the things, you know, Ted Cruz, the national environment, Donald Trump, but this is how I look at it. This is it. This is the opportunity that we have here in Dallas County if we all do this together. Look at this. So the turnout just now is 44%, 392,000 Democratic votes, 168,000 net. But look at what 2018 was. 57%, 481,000 Democratic votes, 240,000 net. Look at what happens. Every time that turnout number goes up, it's not equal on both sides, right? Look, the net number keeps getting higher and higher because at the higher levels of turnout, we get more of those votes. And so if you look at the difference, I'm not just looking at 2018, I'm looking at 2020. 560,000 people came out and voted for a Democrat sometime in the last 2.5 years, right? That's 560,000 people right there, 293,000 net that we can all get to, because this isn't something new that they've never done before in their lives. This is something they literally did. In the last 2 years, we just have to get them to show. We could get them to show up for 2024. We could get them to show up this May. And what are the turnout numbers in May? 9%, 8%, 10%. We can flip almost any race you could think of. If you, we can double it just by getting out people who've already voted, So this is the difference there between what we're at in November and what we could do. 168,000 Democratic votes, 135,000 net. Think about how that affects the entire state. What was the margin for the entire state in 2018? Maybe remember? 216,000 votes. You could get almost all of it right here in Dallas County, right here, if we all do this together. Even bigger than this. Remember what I talked about, low propensity Democrats, right? There's an even bigger opportunity, because I just showed you people who are already voting in presidential years. But look at this. We did this with 2 different cutoff scores. Turnout score of less than 60, and then we did a turnout score of less than 50, right? Less than, if anybody looks at the turnout scores, less than 50 is an unlikely voter by any stretch, right? Look at this. Across our top 3 counties, 12% bump in turnout, 14.6% bump in turnout among the lowest propensity voters. This is powerful stuff. This is like nuclear fusion. When we're using the weapons of the last war, this is going to change everything, literally, if we do it, and we use the right tools, and that's what we're trying to teach y'all how to do. This is the big opportunity, y'all. Registered 2020 non-voters, 481,000. If we look at those numbers, how much we get every time that we actually increase turnout, how many of them vote Democrat? That could be almost 400,000 net votes just in the Dallas area. That's the number that we really should be going for. That is our standard. Try to get every single person out who would ever vote Democrat in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities. But it's not just the relational. And what I mean by that is that some people think that relational organizing is just digital, it's just the texting that you do on your phone, right? We talked about this earlier. The actual knocking on doors, this isn't an either or, this is actually a both and. And so this is what Blue Action has been doing in chapters all across the state. Knocking on doors, over 80,000 doors knocked this past year. When you combine knocking on doors, because the bottom line is, if you don't know somebody in your neighborhood, what do you think we should do? We should get to know them, right? I noticed a lot of hands in here, y'all know the folks in your neighborhood. If we give everybody, every precinct chair, if we put their precinct on their phone, which we did for a lot of folks in November, we put your entire precinct on your phone so you could see, then every time you recruit a block captain, every time you recruit a volunteer, you can see those numbers go down as a team. Everybody gets their own home turf. And we did this all over the state. Look at this. We did this precinct accelerator all over the state. So we gave people their own precincts. And the more people that you recruit, the more that you get that feedback loop, so that people aren't, when my mom would do phone banks, she said, I don't know if I'm helping or not, right? I'm just calling some random person, some random place across the state, or even if you go knock on a neighborhood somewhere on the other side of town, you never come back to that house. In this case, we give people home turfs. Every single precinct chair in here, you can see your precinct, and if you recruit 10 volunteers in your precinct, when those numbers go down, everybody sees it on their phone at the same time. They see, we're gonna do these competitions, right, between precincts to see who has the highest turnout across the state, and it works. It works when you put it together, because the earlier that you do it, see this graph right there? This is time. When we knock on strangers' doors, or we just call strangers, or we mass text strangers, it has a bigger impact the closer you get to election day. This is just the opposite because we're not calling strangers. The earlier that you start, that's 12 weeks out before election day, we had the biggest impact. Some of y'all actually started this program in August or September. The people who started earlier, they grew their networks, they were stronger, they had more time to tell stories like Casey talked about, those personal connections, so that people actually feel it on an emotional level. So how much time do we have? We don't just have 12 weeks, we have a year and a half until the next election. Think about how powerful the impact is if all of us start doing this right now. We get every single precinct chair across the county to do it, and this is the impact. When you combine both block walking, traditional neighborhood canvassing, with putting people into your network, every single conversation that you have, whether it's a person that you already know or a new person that you just met, you add them to your network. I had people in my neighborhood, but I also had my Uber driver, I had my doctor, my bartender, every person, and Lana knows that I'm serious. Like, I literally add people to my network, and I turn them out. 2 or 3 months from now, I say, remember that one time I was at your bar? You're like, yeah, I kind of do. Well, you haven't voted yet, I'm gonna turn you out, and we do. And you combine both of this. This isn't just for low propensity. This is overall bump in turnout. We did this in Harris County, where we had precincts where we were doing both traditional canvassing combined with building a relational network. We can do this in Dallas County. We can do this across the state. This is the total opportunity. When you take the people who did vote in the presidential election but then just don't show up again, and then you add them to the registered non-voters, that is the total opportunity for Dallas. 649,000 people across this county. That's our total opportunity. That's what we should be shooting for. Dallas County can literally flip the entire state if we do our job here. So lastly, what are our goals? I just told you what we built in 2.5 months. Now we've got more than a year and a half left. There's about 8,000 precincts across the state. So our goal is to get to half of them, get to 4,000 precincts. In each one of those precincts, like I said, we want to target an average about 10 volunteers per precinct. So we're trying to get from 7,000 volunteers to 40,000 over the next year and a half. 40,000, simple math, 100 people in each person's network. That's 4 million voters across the state. 500,000 is good, but it's not good enough to flip the state. 4 million, that's enough to flip the entire state of Texas, and we do it by reaching out to those folks. I know Kristy talked about adopting a college campus. We have almost 500 four-year colleges and universities across the state. We can digitally canvass these campuses. In fact, people who are freshmen and sophomores or even seniors in high school right now, they start building their network. If you give them 50 people in their dorm or 50 people from their high school, so they track them, it doesn't matter whether they're 17 right now or not, they're all gonna be able to vote in 2 years. You start building those networks, and no matter whether they go to college somewhere else in the state or they go out of state, it doesn't matter because now we have them in a network. And we track all of those college students. We also get all of these faith-based organizations, churches, mosques, temples, immigrants. In my own district, when I ran for Congress, we had all these different languages, and people said, don't bother with them, those folks don't vote. We said, no, actually we want to bother with them because nobody's reaching out to them in their own language. We campaign in 27 languages. Some of these communities, there's a community called the Smiling Muslims. In fact, our first 2 Muslim elected state representatives are both from this community because it's extremely well organized. We took that organization and put it into organizing for electoral turnout. In my Smiling Muslim community, 3,000 of them, they organize themselves relationally through their networks. Not in English, in Urdu, by the way. A community that was never talked to, like non-native English speaking community. You know what we got their turnout rate up to? 83%. 83%. That's the power of this. And lastly, we've got to get our unions, we got to get professional associations involved in this because traditionally, when we work with unions, we try to get out union members and we do mailers with them, we do paid canvases. But the thing is, every single union member has people in their neighborhood. Every single union member has friends, family members, people they go to church with. All of those folks should be in our network too. And so the more that we penetrate into the unions, even with all these union busting judges, the more we actually get our unions involved in this kind of organizing, the more we get folks like trial lawyers. Trial lawyers, all of their networks, everybody has a vested interest in Democrats getting elected. We get our entire networks, professional, religious, ethnic, students, we get all of them together and then we flip the entire state. So if you guys are interested in that, that's why we're doing it. We're gonna talk about exactly how we do it in these sessions, so please sign up for one of the 2 sessions that we're gonna do right after this. This is our contact information, but we would love to train every single person in here. Let's make sure we turn Dallas County and the entire state blue. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Could I, may I, while you're pulling up the next person, just give a really quick testimonial to Sri, thank you, Joanna, thank you so much. I'm riding my bike around my neighborhood and I keep the 2 Million Texans app available and I see somebody out watering their lawn, I'm gonna connect with, sorry, y'all can't hear my voice? When I'm riding my bike in my neighborhood and I've got the 2 Million Texans app up, and I see somebody watering their lawn or grabbing their mail, I'm quickly putting in your address and going, hi, I'm your neighbor. I'm also the precinct chair in this area. Can we connect? Are you planning to vote? Tell me more about your plan. It is amazing to be able to capture that right on the spot without having to log into Van, create a list, etc. You guys, if you're not already in this 2 Million Texans, definitely get yourself in there. It's gonna help so much.
Thank you. How's our video? Ready to go?
I need the mic.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna hand over the mic, but I'm gonna do a quick introduction before we do that. This video, I think Kristy mentioned our 2023 priorities. Along with those priorities that we listed about turning out youth voters, accessing inaccessible places, whether those are apartments, condos, doing our work downtown or throughout the county, we also want to get better at how we communicate with seniors. How often we communicate with our seniors. Are we communicating with them in person, face to face, email? How do people want to be communicated with? So we're not leaving anybody behind. This is a quick video from the Honorable Diane Rexdale. If you know her, you love her. She is often referred to as the mayor of South Dallas. And you'll hear why she's phenomenal on organizing, training, but also sticking to the issues and connecting voting to everyday lives.
We have to connect voting to people's day-to-day lives. People have to realize that when you talk about police abuse, or when you talk about in general the criminal justice system, that system is controlled by elected officials. When you talk about something as fundamental as water, that water departments are controlled by elected officials. And then when you look at parks, when you look at utilities, they're controlled ultimately by elected officials. And so it's extremely important that we connect voting to people's daily lives so they might understand why they should vote. And it's extremely important that we do this on a routine, regular basis. We cannot just determine that we want to encourage people to vote 6 months out or a year out. It has to be ongoing. And in addition to that, we as Democrats, we have to recognize that the Dallas system, that the Dallas County Democratic Party has to respond to people's needs. So to the extent possible, we have to be a resource center to meet people's needs. And so that they can understand, so that the constituents, the voters can understand that those people really care about me. But you know what? It's amazing to me when we look at the number of people, in my opinion, most of the constituents, most of the citizenry, we are naturally Democrats. Blacks, browns, working class whites, naturally Democrats. But we have not inspired them to vote. And we have to do that. And I think if we educate them on a regular basis, if we share with them, if we genuinely care about their needs, then we can make it happen. Thank you.
That message is the reason that we're having this kind of training today. A number of you, I see you from across the county. This is what we're trying to do in 2023. We don't want to skip over to our wins in 2024, but we want to do the groundwork now. And a lot of you have been doing that with us along the way. So our breakout rooms, if you are here, stand up, wave your hand. First breakout room that we're going to have a little bit later on is how to engage young voters. Emerging generations, how to engage young voters. We have Camilla Bordeaux and Charles Griffith. Charles, you here? Charles will be in that room, joined by Camilla Bordeaux a little bit later. Also, issue-based organizing, engaging the 56% of Dallas County voters who did not vote in the 22 midterm. We have Councilwoman Crystal Chisholm from DeSoto, who is here with us. We have Tiara Cooper from Rooted in Liberation, and Chris Leal from Alliance AFT. We'll be hearing from them in just a second as well. And then, of course, block walking in odd years. Block walking year round. Why is it important to talk to folks, knock on doors all year long, every year? We have Ramiro Luna from Somos Tejas, DeMarcus Alford Associates, Claire Dewar, outstanding precinct chair, and Edward Turner, also outstanding precinct chair. Thank you guys for being here. And then we have one more. Tech and politics. Again, how are we communicating with people with all of our new mediums, whether that's Zoom? Of course, 2020 showed us how to use everything at our disposal. So what are we using? What tools are we using to talk to as many voters as possible? We have Lana, Hansen, and Shrek. And then, of course, we have Dr. Cameron Gerard Greer, who's in the house for Texas A&T. So I'm glad that we have our union partners here working with us. Of course, like you just said, we have to get our union partners engaged, but these folks are here working year round and gonna work with us to make sure that we have the skills that we need. So we're gonna do a quick icebreaker to kind of just get the energy up a little bit before we break for lunch. That's gonna come from Tiara Cooper and Chris Leal.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We talked about precinct to precinct, but I want people to know that this is a work of people. This is a work of people. People to people, person to person. And in order to create a world where our needs are met, we have to do this work relationally. We've heard a lot. We said a lot. But now I want you all to just repeat after me. All power.
All power
To the people.
to the people.
All power.
All power
To the people.
to the people.
All peace.
All peace
To the people.
to the people.
All love.
All love
To the people.
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 Hey, y'all get up. Stand up, guys. Stand up. Stand up.
Gotta keep the blood flowing, guys.
Let's get some energy going, because I know it's early and some of us ain't had our coffee. Some of us have not had our coffee. But I believe I'm in a room with Democrats, and Democrats don't need coffee. We don't need it. We don't need it. We want it, but we don't require it to get the job done. Right? Is that right? That's what I heard. We get things done around here. So all power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people. To the people. To the people. Now we're gonna do one more chant, and then we're gonna do a quick icebreaker. I want you to move around, get your body moving. I need our comrades to know that we are in this together. So repeat after me. The people united. Will never be defeated. The people united. Will never be defeated. Do we have any bilingual speakers in the room? Spanish? Can you come assist us really quickly? In Spanish. So can you say the people united?
La gente, todos unidos. La gente unidos.
La gente unidos.
La gente unidos.
La gente unidos. Will never be defeated.
Nunca, bueno, no es posible robar. No es posible robar de la gente.
Already, the people united will never be defeated. In the words of Senator Chavez, I just want to bring some language justice in this space, because we need everyone. We need each and every one of us to win not only elections, but to transform Dallas County. To transform Dallas County. And a strong community is not possible without strong people, strong young voters. Okay, so I want you all to meet someone in the room that you do not know. So we're gonna shuffle a little bit. I'm gonna need you to go meet and talk to someone that's outside of your precinct. And I want you to introduce yourself, one. And I want you to spend another minute, we have 2 minutes for each speaker. You will have to introduce yourself and then say, what are you expecting out of today? What's your expectation? What is your expectation and what do you want to leave with? We're gonna break and I'm gonna give y'all time.